We know it. Answer, Jesus alayhi salam will return when the Antichrist has completed his mission. And he has not as yet completed his mission. In order for him to complete that mission of establishing his rule over the world, he needs power. Power to control and power to oppress those who resist him. And so Allah created the second of the signs of the last day, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, Gog and Magog. You cannot understand this subject without understanding Gog and Magog. And we have the tape recording of the CDs of the lecture at the back, inshallah. Secondly, not only does he need power to control and power to oppress all those who resist him, he needs to also bring all of mankind together as one global society. And so he can grip them with one universal iron grip. And that is what explains globalization in the world today. To facilitate his total and absolute control over all of mankind. And finally, in order for him to succeed, he must be able to deal with those who resist him. And the true followers of Nabi Muhammad ﷺ would resist him. How best to break their power so that they are powerless to resist him. The most effective of all weapons that he has is a weapon with which he reduces those who resist him to poverty, to destitution. And in reducing them to poverty, permanent poverty, imprisoning them in permanent poverty and in destitution, he robs them of their power. We are standing at the doorstep today of that new slavery, which will rob us all of any power to resist. The weapon that he uses to reduce us to poverty, to permanent poverty, to destitution, is riba. It took me, how much? 15 minutes to give you that introduction. I wish I could have gone directly into the lecture without this introduction. The Prophet ﷺ informed us that in the pursuit of that mission to eventually rule the world from Jerusalem, Dajjal passes through 3 stages. Stage 1 of his mission, which will be of a duration of a day, which is like a year, would be a very long period of time. And in that first stage, you will see the beginnings of the strategy to rule the world, with one ruling state emerging. And then comes stage 2, which will be a shorter duration, a day which will be like a month. And in that you will see a second ruling state emerging, making way for Dajjal to eventually complete his mission. And then comes stage 3 of his mission, which would be the shortest one of all, which would be a day which is like a week. When he has completed stage 3 of his mission, then Israel would be the ruling state in the world, and he'd be ready to proclaim himself to be Messiah. In all three stages, one of the most strategic of all weapons that he uses is the weapon of riba. Riba is at the heart of the slavery. What is riba? Not just in the Quran, but in all previous scriptures as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited riba. Lending and borrowing something which is recognized as money. Lending and borrowing money on interest is riba. It doesn't matter whether the amount of riba is small or large. Nabi Muhammad ﷺ said, the end result is the same. It's just a matter of time. You're going to be reduced to poverty and destitution when once they successfully attack you with riba. There is a second form of riba, however, which is our subject for today. If you meet a man coming to the market to sell his goods, a whole truckload of tupitambo, and you buy his truckload of tupitambo from him at $3 a pound, and when he goes in the market, he finds that he could have gotten $4 a pound. Market price, wholesale price, was 4. He knew that. You did not. He met you outside the market and he exploited your ignorance of the market price. It was a transaction based on deception, which yielded a profit or a gain greater than that to which he was justly entitled. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that is riba. They call it today usury. The Americans have a very pretty expression for that transaction. They call it a rip-off. A rip-off is riba. When an economy is based on riba, whether the first or the second kind, then as we said, wealth no longer circulates through that economy. The rich remain permanently rich, the poor permanently poor. The masses plant, but the rich will reap. Not all the rich, of course. There are those who are wealthy, but they got their wealth halal, kosher. The poor would plant, but the rich would reap the fruit of their labor, their sweat, their tears, their blood suckers who suck the blood of the masses until they are helpless to resist slavery. Even the physical body of the slave is now the property of the slave master. And the physical body, male or female, can be used carefully. You won't understand this until we give the lecture on spiritual revolution in Islam. He said that a slave woman would give birth to her mistress. In this lecture, let us concentrate on the second form of riba. Transactions based on deception, which rip off people, which yield profits and gains to which one is not justly entitled. The biggest rip-off of all, since Nabi Adam alayhi salam put foot on earth, is the rip-off which is now taking place in the world of money. There are some of you who already understand the subject, but there are many who do not. What is money? It is that with which we buy and sell. What are the functions of money? Number one, to be a medium of exchange for buying and selling. Barter has its limitations. I need a haircut. And my wife says to me, Imran, I'm tired of cutting your hair. Why don't you go to the barber? So I went to the barber and he cut my hair. I had to pay him. So I offered him a copy of my book, Prohibition of Riba, in the Quran and Sunnah. The barber is looking very embarrassed. He says, Sheikh, I don't know how to say this to you, but I'm not interested in reading your book. So, barter has its limitations. What I need to pay him is something called money, that he can then use to go in the market and buy some zaboka. Up in West Boris they call it avocado. And the fellow who sold the zaboka can use it to buy a copy of my book. In other words, the first function of money is to be a medium of exchange for buying and selling. But how much should I pay for the haircut? And how much should he pay for the zaboka? And how much should you pay for the book? In other words, how do we measure value? What is the unit with which we will assign value? Money has this second function, to be a measure of value. Well, yes, the haircut would be $25. The zaboka would be, if it's big, $4, if small, $3. And the book would be $40. But money has a third function that the IMF and the World Bank and Washington and the Jewish money lenders of the world don't want you to know about. What is the third function of money? It is to be a store of value. And left some money for me, and I was a baby. And they put the money away from me. And with this money, I could buy 100 camels. I would only get the money when I'm 21. That's what Grandpa said. So I had to wait until 21 to get the money. But provided the demand and supply for camels in the market remain constant, when I'm 21 and you give me money, I should be able to buy the 100 camels. In other words, that money should have stored its value faithfully for 21 years. But if the money leaking, by the time I reach age 21, everything leak out already? Can't use that as money, can we? No. So these are the three functions of money. To be a medium of exchange, to be a measure of value